Well, hi everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us here today. Uh, we'll get into the get started here with the webinar. We're just a minute or two at past the top of the hour. I'm Kyle Hartung. I'm a senior account executive here with MHC, and look forward to spending the next hour or so with you all. I did this presentation about a month ago, and also at a user group meeting a few weeks ago, and it'd be great to have it interactive. So if you have questions, please type them into the Q&A section or in the chat, and Sam will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A, and we can pause a few times throughout the webinar to answer questions. Everyone is muted just because of the number of participants. Again, use the chat and the Q&A to ask questions. And we are recording this as well. Everyone will get a link once the recording is available. Do encourage you to stay on, however, because there are some immediate action items for a lot of you will probably have following this webinar with tax season right around the corner. So with that, let's get into it. Quick introduction of myself. I'm Kyle Hartung. Again, I'm a senior account executive here with MHC. I'm coming to you today from Lakeville, Minnesota, which is just south of the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, which I've spent my entire life here. Which as a result has made me a Minnesota sports fan, which is not a good place to be for those of you that follow the Vikings and the Wild. And it's been a rough winter, which is kind of what we're used to here. So we take it in stride. But I'm a big sports fan. Also played hockey my entire life, and I'm fortunate enough to have an opportunity to coach my son and some of his buddies in hockey as well. So that's what I spend a lot of my free time. We're right in the thick of things right now with hockey season, and it's almost a daily occurrence where we're either on the ice or doing video sessions or something to do with the team. But I really enjoy it, and that's takes up a lot of my time. This is my family here. My wife, Kristen, daughter, Mila, and son, Parker, who are in 5th and 6th grade, respectively. That's a little bit about myself. Professionally, I've been with MHC for over 20 years now. I started in the early 2000s started in support for our products. So for those of you that are familiar with like the Document Express application, when I started in 2002, I was supporting that application. Moved into some project management as our additional product portfolio rolled out. Started working with our imaging and self-service customers as well. I'd like to tell a story some of you may have heard previously, but I used to take a CD with a stack of manuals, get on an airplane, fly across the country, and install software on users' desktops. And the internet was not fast enough at that point to download software. So obviously we're in a different place here, and that really speaks a little bit to when I was first started here with MHC. My current role, I'm a account executive, so I work with customers, helping them evaluate our different applications and mutually decide if it might be beneficial for their organization. Based on their needs, and really it's around procure to pay and HR payroll, document automation, document output. So that's a little bit about me and my background. I'm going to turn off my camera just to prevent any distractions here, but we'll get into the content on the screen here. So a little bit about MHC. For those of you that are not familiar, I know most of you or a lot of you are customers. We again appreciate your business, and we've been 20 plus years digitizing documents and automating document communications to employees, to customers, to vendors, etc. We have over 1,300 customers, over 100 system integrations, and then one thing that we take a lot of pride in is our customer service. And the stat there was 70% of our customers using our solutions for 5+ years is certainly a testament to that. For those of you that are not familiar, there's a technology marketplace called G2, and that's what these badges are in the lower left-hand corner. Some different awards that we were able to accomplish in the fall of 2023. And if you haven't been to G2, I'd recommend it. It's really it's a place where you can go and it can help you evaluate different software vendors, where there are different peer reviews. really to help your organization make smarter software decisions. So if we talk a little bit about MHC and our product offerings, and then we're really going to get into the content for today, which is all about, tax document processing and, what you all are here for 2023. So MHC has a few different offerings, and hopefully most of you have heard of the term MHC North Star. If you have not, we'd be more than happy to speak further with you about it. But really, MHC North Star is MHC's next gen cloud native platform, and specifically is used today for AP invoice and AP payment automation. MHC North Star eventually, will replace what we call the MHC Classic solutions. We're not there yet, and for today's, purposes and for the year end coming up here, you would use what we call the MHC Classic applications. MHC North Star does not have the functionality today that you'll need for 1099s, W-2s, 1095Cs, but it is on our roadmap, and next year, will be a different story as far as that goes. So hopefully you all have heard of MHC North Star. Again, it's our next gen cloud native platform, really the future for MHC. But for today, we're going to be focusing on the MHC Classic applications, which can be either run hosted in our cloud or on premise within your organization on your infrastructure. MHC at a real high level, the primary use cases you'll see on the right hand side here, AP invoice and AP payment automation. We get into supply chain document automation as well, POs and receiving documents. We're going to certainly talk about employee document self-service today, as well as printing options for your employee documents, tax document self-service, and then the remote tax and check distribution print services that we offer as well. So that's real high level, 10,000 foot view of MHC, what we provide, and we'll get into more into the details for the content today. If we talk a little bit about the agenda, we're going to talk about some general updates for this tax season. We'll be bucketed into 4 flexible options that we're going to talk through. Most of you will fall into one of these 4 options, or certainly are exceptions, but should cover what most of you are going to be looking at for this upcoming tax season. We'll highlight the timelines that are going to be important to you guys, and then some frequently asked questions. Again, as questions come up, type them into the chat or the Q&A. Sam's going to monitor that, and I'll pause and see if there are any questions as we go through the webinar here today. All right, so if we get into the IRS guidelines and the 2023 tax year deadlines. So on the left-hand side here, really nothing new for the electronic delivery compliance that hopefully most of you are delivering your W-2s and 1095Cs electronically, but you do need to get employees' consent. And the employee must provide consent that shows their ability to access their document, which I'll take you through a demo here of how that works here in just a couple of minutes. But they must also be informed that they can provide you'll provide a paper copy if they don't want the electronic delivery, and then there's an important tax return document available. It must be the subject line of that email that they receive. The main point here is, MHC provides a solution that will allow you to be IRS compliant with all of these different components here, and we stay up to date with any new IRS compliance items from year to year to make sure you're staying compliant with with the IRS, of course, to deliver these documents to the employees. So key dates, nothing new really for January 31st. The W-2s must be furnished to the employees, 1099s to the payees or your vendors, suppliers, and then the IRS electronic filing or paper filing for W-2s and the 1099 NECs January 31st. February 28th would be the paper filing for the 1095Cs and the 1099, the miscellaneous dividend and the interest. And then March 1st would be the 1095Cs. So you have a little bit more time for those Affordable Care Act forms to get those out to the employees. And then April 1st for the electronic filing for the 1095Cs and the electronic filing for the 1099 miscellaneous dividend and interest. Again, this is being recorded. We'll send you a copy of this as well. And, if you want a copy of the slide deck, afterwards, there'll be a survey. You can just make a note in that survey that you'd like a copy of the slide deck, and we'll send that over to you. As far as the Canadian updates, so for our friends up north, we do provide T4 software as well as the Releve 1 forms from MHC, and February 29th is the date for those to be furnished to the employees and then filed with the Canadian Revenue Authority or agency. All right, so we'll get into the 4 flexible options here that we talked about earlier. It's this quadrant will go through the different options here. So option 1 is going to be what we call go digital and hands-free. So really allowing you to electronically deliver documents to the employees internally, and they can self-serve essentially, and then MHC, or you can outsource the printing of the documents. So really, in that case, your payroll, your HR, your AP departments are not having to print anything in-house. Option 2 would be going digital and printing locally. So, for those employees that opt in for the electronic delivery, you'd be able to deliver those electronically. Same with the vendors for 1099s. And then for anybody that's not opted in, being able to print internally and then mail those documents out, or, internally distribute those. Going hands-free would be completely outsourcing the document processing. So, washing your hands of it, not wanting to deal with it internally whatsoever. And then hands-on would be, internally printing for your organization. So I imagine most of you fall into one of these buckets, and we'll go through each one of them and talk about the impacts and what you should be thinking about with tax season just right around the corner. Before we do, just a quick poll of the audience. I've done this webinar the last few years, and it's always interesting to see the results. How people are planning to deliver their documents to their employees and vendors for this year. Just a quick preview of the poll before I launch it. Option 1 would be an electronic option, planning to outsource any printing. Option 2 would be electronic, ready to plan to print in-house. Completely outsourcing would be option 3. Option 4 would be printing everything in-house. And then if you're not sure yet, hopefully you're figuring that out soon because you don't have a lot of time. But that would be option 1. So with that, I'm going to launch the poll here. And if you guys wouldn't mind responding, that would be great. And so this is where we would cue the Final Jeopardy music. I don't have that handy, but we can all imagine it here. We've got about, let's see here, about 57% so far, 60%. Give people another 10, 15 seconds or so, and then we'll share the results. So one thing I've noticed, over the years is the electronic options continue to increase and increase. Hopefully in 2023, most organizations have some type of electronic option for their employees. And, those numbers have gone up as the years have gone on, of course. All right, we've got 76%. Going to give it one more, just give people a last chance here, 5 more seconds or so. And we're going to share the results here. So as you can see there, the first 2 options have the electronic delivery. So we're over 50% of you all are electronically delivering those documents, which is great. Printing everything in-house is just under 30%. So a lot of printing going on. Not sure yet, 6%. Hopefully you all have some meetings coming up to figure that out. And if we can help you, certainly let us know. And then 10% would be outsourcing completely. Appreciate the feedback there. That's always interesting to see kind of where people are at, and it's good to see we've got more than half of you with electronic options. All right, so let's get into it. I guess before we do that, Sam, are there any questions before we get into the first option here?
Yes. Oh wait, the answers. I think it was more of it said the answer is different for employees as opposed to vendors.
Sure. Yeah, so there's we kind of bucketed it all under one category. So yeah, that's a good call out. But yeah, you absolutely could be, electronically delivering documents for employees and maybe printing your 1099s, for example. So good call out. That's something that we bucketed all under one category. Well, good. So if we talk about option one here, and this is really about, allowing you to electronically deliver your documents and then also outsourcing the printing. So let's talk through that option and what you all should be thinking about if you fall into that category. So the first piece we'll talk about is the electronic delivery. So there's a self-service portal. For those of you that might fall into this category, hopefully the term document self-service makes sense, where we're providing a self-service portal for the employees to access their documents. And then there's a print option as well, where in this case, you'd be outsourcing the printing either to MHC or somebody else. And, if you're using our software, we can help you by, if let's, for example, if we take W-2s and let's say you have 5,000 employees and you have, let's say 4,000 employees are signed up for electronic delivery. Our system knows who's signed up and who's not signed up. It knows that you have the 1,000 left to print, and it knows what 4,000 employees are signed up for the electronic delivery. So it kicks out a file that'll have just those 1,000 employees that need to print, and maybe any inactive employees if you're not electronically delivering those. And then you send that file to MHC, and we can process those for you. So that's just an example. Same with the 1095Cs as well. But this end user experience gives the employee access to their documents 24/7. They're, with people working from home and being able to want to access their documents at any time from any location. Obviously, that's a benefit to the employees. Even if you're using our document self-service, there is a cloud option as well. A lot of people don't know that MHC does have a cloud for all of our applications. And if you're you don't want to host our software on premise, we can certainly help you with that. And then basically the mailing of the documents would happen through MHC. We have a print service that we provide you guys send us your file. Our team will do some quality assurance, send you some samples, send you some totals reports, make sure everything balances with what you're expecting, and then we can print and mail those documents out for you, so you don't have to deal with that printing. And then for the example of the 5,000 employees, you could, even one of those, for the ones that did not opt in for the electronic delivery, the 1,000 that I referenced, you can send them to the website for a reprint because you're just obligated to provide that first copy if they don't provide the electronic consent. So what does this option provide? There's an increases and a decreases arrow here. Employee engagement. We'll talk about some of the different options for electronic document delivery and what some of the different document types are that are commonly used through MHC. Efficiency. So you're providing the electronic delivery, not having to print anything in-house. Disaster recovery and business disruption. So we, certainly will cover that for you. You have a secure electronic file storage that, all the documents, of course, are encrypted and stored securely. And then, it offloads the manual printing, stuffing, sorting, sealing of those documents that a lot of you are probably facing or dealing with here today. So that's a little bit about the first piece. So if we talk a little bit further, so the self-service portal is really, it integrates typically with your employee portal. So whether it's employee self-service, employee space, your employee portal, we provide a seamless user experience. So there's a single sign-on component. And we can tie into your Active Directory or we can tie into your employee portal, single sign-on in most cases, depending on what employee portal you're using. So the employee would log into that employee portal like they're doing today, and then they click on our link, which would redirect them right in to see their documents or sign up for electronic documents. Seeing their past and their present documents. So if you are a new customer, the first time they log in, we can load historical documents for you. So they see those historical documents. Even if you're just started using the system, we can post those historical documents. So the employee might have, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of history the first time that they log in. And the administrators, of course, have the ability to manage the communications to the employees. There's a number of emails that get sent out, when your tax document's available, when you opt in for electronic delivery, and the administrators control that messaging, and our team helps you get that set up. And then for reprints, again, you can completely eliminate reprints. So even if you have some employees or vendors that are requesting the printed copy, you can send them to the website for the reprints. And then there's a full audit trail, of course, of everything that's happening within the system. So you can see which employees have opted in, which employees have not, who's downloaded their W-2, who's viewed their W-2, and full audit trail of everything that's happening within the system. So that's a little bit about the electronic delivery side of things. If we talk about the outsourced printing side of things here, and what you need to be thinking about now, this is a bit of a timeline here. So for anybody that's interested in our outsourced print service, we do require a statement of work, and we have a gentleman named David Bolt that's handling those this year for us. And he, if he hasn't been in touch with you and you're interested, I'll provide some contact information here in a minute. But so between now and the end of December, we need to get a statement of work in place. Obviously, the sooner the better. So if you haven't started that process, please let us know. And then January through February, you're providing us with your data files depending on the different document types. Obviously, W-2s and 1099s need to be processed in January, and then February for those 1095Cs have a little bit more time. So you're providing us with those sample files. We have a secure portal that we use for you to send us those files, which our processing team would work with you all to get set up as well. We provide some Q&A, as I mentioned earlier, making sure our totals balance with what you're expecting as far as your totals go. We can provide document samples, make sure that everything looks correct before we start processing. And then we're going to print, seal, and mail those documents out. Typically, we also can ship them back to you as a large shipment, but with people working remotely, and usually it's a direct first class mail document to the employee's home. So that's a little bit about the outsourced print service. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a future section here, and I'll share David Bolt's contact information here in just a minute. But if we talk back a little bit more about the electronic delivery piece, so this is just shows you obviously have your end users, which is going to be the large population of your employees and their experience, and then you have your administrators who are going to have administrator access and can see what documents have been posted, who's viewed their W-2, who's not signed up for electronic W-2s. It gives you that reporting and that administrative view that you would expect from an admin side. As far as the end user experience goes, W-2s, T4s, 1095Cs. We also can do payroll, customized pay stubs. Not really the focus for today's webinar, but just more documents, more employee engagement, compensation statements, employee contracts, agreements, etc. We also can support active and inactive employee access. So we'll talk a little bit about the inactive employee access and how they can access the system as well, so that you don't have to handle those in your payroll department, having to print and mail those documents out. And then as far as the end user or the administrator side of things, again, we talked about some of the reports, but being able to audit and track and control the communication that goes out to the employees as well. So with that, I'm going to jump into a demo here. Just want to, with these presentations, it's a lot of PowerPoint content, like to show the software, show you exactly what the end user experience would look like. So for those of you that are not familiar with this application, this is MHC Document Self-Service. And I'm going to log in here as just a regular employee. Let's imagine that I was just made aware that my organization has rolled out electronic W-2s, electronic 1095Cs, maybe electronic T4s for our Canadian customers. And all of this is configurable and customizable by your administrators. This welcome message, of course, we can brand it with your company logo. Again, you can host this internally, or MHC can host it via our cloud. It's really up to you. But you'll notice here, I've got some payroll documents, I've got some 1095Cs, I've got some contracts, employee documents. It's all based off of what your planning to use the software for. If you're just using it for W-2s or 1095-Cs, you would only see those documents, and this would be a cleaner view. But one document that I don't see here would be W-2s. So if I go to my delivery settings, I notice I'm not opted in for electronic W-2s. So this is that opt-in process that I talked about earlier. We provide a generic PDF. W-2 for every employee to use as a test print, because they have to say that they were able to successfully test print in order to opt in. So we're going to provide them with that generic PDF. Here they can do a test print and say they were able to successfully do it before they can actually opt in. So I'm going to go ahead and agree to receive my W-2 electronically. You'll notice here there's a couple email addresses. So we typically pull a primary email address from your payroll system or your HR system or your ERP system, depending on where you want us to pull that from. And then I'm going to click here to say I want to receive my W-2 electronically through the web. And then I'll notice this green check mark here. And what would happen next is an email would automatically get sent out to my work email. And then I forgot to mention that we can allow them to put in a home email address as well, if that's what you want. You don't have to, you can turn that off if you don't want that. E-text delivery is about, MHC creating a file and sending it to TurboTax at year end for employees that may want their information sent to TurboTax, so that when they go to do their return, it'll automatically import their data for them. So this is an optional piece that you could either have enabled or not enabled. And then if you have it enabled, our system just takes the data for the employees that are opted in and will send it to TurboTax at year end. Same idea for the T4s. I'm not sure if there are any Canadian organizations on the line here today, but if there are, same idea. We're providing this sample T4 and, allowing them to go through that opt-in process. And then once they go through the opt-in process, then, when we go to process the documents in January or February for the T4s, our system knows who's opted in, who's not, and we can handle them accordingly based off of, how if you want to post to self-service for those opted in, print for those that are opted out, or send a file to MHC for us to print them for you for those that are opted out. But again, you can completely eliminate those reprints as we talked about. Let's see. So I'm going to go back to my main screen here, and this now you'll see my views a little bit different. I can see my W-2s, I can see my T4s, and not only my current year W-2s, but previous years. This first screen here has what we call recent documents, which are going to be the most recent documents. It's intuitively named. But we'll click on our 2022 W-2. The 23 W-2s are not available yet. We'll talk a little bit about when those are going to be available here in just a minute. But here's my 2022 W-2. But our system can house way more than what you're seeing here. So if I go to my documents and if I go into my W-2s, I can see, if I want to see everything, here are all my historical W-2s. So we can backload as much history as you want, as long as we have, access to the data to create those documents, of course. Same with the 1095-Cs, same with the 1099s. There's a vendor portal, vendor self-service portal piece for the 1099s. And, I talked a little bit about the payroll, but it's not really the focus for today, but another very commonly used document where we can create a nicely formatted pay stub for the employees that can be customized specific to your organization, as you can see here. So that's a little bit about the self-service portal. Sam, is there another question, or are there any other questions before we continue?
Yes, a question came in asking how many customers use the TurboTax option?
Ooh, that's a put me on the spot question. How many customers use the TurboTax option? That's a good question. I'll need to check with our team. I'm not gonna guess. Of our 1,300 customers, I would need to check. So we'll follow up with you on that one. I don't want to guess. Is there any other questions so far, Sam?
That's it.
All right. We will be in touch to get you an answer on that. Okay, so that was a little bit of just a quick demo of the self-service portal. Again, you can really use it for any type of employee-specific document, or as I mentioned earlier, there's a vendor self-service portal as well, where vendors would register and be able to view their 1090. It could be payments, could be 1099s, could be POs, depending on what documents you want to provide for those vendors through the self-service portal. On the HR side, these would be the more common, W-2s, 1095Cs, pay stubs, total comp statements is also a pretty commonly used document through our system as well. So if you're interested in learning any more about the document self-service, Sam's going to put a link in the chat, which will give you the ability to schedule a meeting. If you're interested in learning more, we can get someone to talk to you further about that. We get asked a lot, is it too late to deploy a document self-service piece for 2023 tax documents? And the way that we typically answer that, or what we would recommend, is that you're going to have a tough time getting it deployed, and a lot of employees opted in before you have to process your documents. It's certainly possible, but what we've had a number of customers do is deploy it now, print everything, or send your file to MHC to print, but then you can post everyone to document self-service, so you can eliminate those reprints that payroll typically is handling. Plus, when someone goes to reprint a document through the self-service portal, then they're opted in for the next year, and then use next year to push the majority of the employees to opt in for the initial delivery of the 2024 document. So at this point, being almost to December, that's what we see most of our customers doing if you're looking to roll something out now. But I can't say it's possible to get it rolled out before the year end, but it's usually people don't want to take that on with only a month and change left. Okay, so how can you prepare for option one? Of course, be aware of the IRS dates. Pay attention to year-end notifications from your ERP provider. So those year-end updates are typically coming out here very soon. First week of December, second week of December. For electronic delivery customers, we've had some creative stories that I've heard over the years for people. Obviously, the more employees you get opted in for the electronic delivery, the fewer you have to print, which saves your organization money. We've had people do drawings. If you opt in for electronic delivery, you're going to be put in a drawing to win a TV or some type of a prize. Make it fun. Anything that can incentivize the employees to opt in. MHC year-end updates are going to be coming out here shortly. We're typically the middle of December, and so watch for those communications. I'm going to talk about if you haven't received any communication by the middle of December, we'll talk about, here's the support information. So contact our support if you want to make sure you're set up to receive those notifications, and the support line phone number is there as well. The TurboTax integration, we'll be in touch in early January for those TurboTax customers. And again, we'll follow up on that question about how many customers do we have using that. And then make sure if you're planning to use our processing service, we need to know very soon so we can get that statement of work put together and executed before the end of the month, and to make sure that we have space available. And David Bolt is our tax processing coordinator this year, so feel free to reach out to him if you're interested in a statement of work or pricing information. He'll need to know what document types, what the quantities are expected, rough estimate of the quantities, and then he can provide you with pricing information and or a statement of work if you're interested in that. Well, good. Any other questions, Sam, before we move on to option two?
Yes, it says the question is, how well does this work for people that are 1099?
Yeah, I guess the 1099s, that we have a couple different options. We can use the vendor or the supplier portal or the self-service portal piece that we provide. We actually call it vendor document self-service. And then we have the ability to print the 1099s as well. And if that didn't answer your question, feel free to share a little more context on the question. Okay, so as far as option 2 goes, so option 2 would be really very similar to option 1, except for you're printing locally. So we're going to focus on that print locally versus sending MHC the file piece of that. So again, you have the online self-service piece, which would not change. The difference is going to be that printing locally and what you need to do there. So if we focus on that, these are just some of the things that you lose by printing locally. Obviously, you're going to need the labor, or you're going to need the staff to print stuff, mail, seal, all the fun stuff with printing locally versus option 1 had MHC providing that for you. But we do have a lot of customers that fall into that bucket. So one thing you were going to want to think about is how many documents do you need to print? So if you're using the electronic W-2s, how many do we have left that need to print that aren't signed up for the electronic W-2s? If we're printing 1099s, how many do we need to print? How many are NEC versus the miscellaneous? So think about those document totals. We're getting kind of towards the end of this period, as you can see here. One nice tool that we have, or a nice report within Document Self-Service, is you can run a report to see how many employees are opted in for electronic W-2s, electronic 1095Cs, and then figure out how many we're going to need to print based off of that. Order your tax form. So this is a huge part for this option that is different from option 1. So the tax forms MHC handles for you with option 1. With option 2, you need to procure those on your own, and I'll talk more about that here in just a minute. Know your customer portal login. So that we have a customer portal that we just rolled out back in October. That's available. The previous customer support site is how we called it, is also available this year as well. So either will be an option, but we're recommending that you transition to the new support site, which is our customer portal. If you haven't gotten any information on that, please contact our support. I'll provide that contact information again as well. They can make sure that you're set up to access the new customer portal. And then download the software. It's not available yet. So middle of December, those year-end updates come out from MHC. We have to wait till the ERP year-end updates are finalized, because if they make any changes at the end, we need to accommodate for, then our software. That's why we wait. We have to wait till theirs are finalized, and then we're able to release ours. Of course, we're working closely with the ERP providers now to make sure we're ready, but we just have to wait until their year-end updates come out before we can release ours. If you're an MHC Cloud customer, we handle this for you, so you don't have to worry about updating your 1099s or your W-2s or your 1095Cs. That's a benefit of being an MHC Cloud customer. And then installing those updates, downloading, applying those depending on where the software is located. There's different DLLs that you'll need to install. Hopefully you're either on servers, not on users' desktops, but we still have some customers that run the software on users' desktops. But our support team is available to help, and we'll provide that information here again in just a second. So for those of you that may not be familiar, everything starts with your ERP, whether it's your payroll system for W-2s, your AP system for 1099s, your benefit system for 1095Cs, generates files. We take that data, we bring it into our system. Hopefully most of you are familiar with the Document Express application. We format the data in the documents, and typically are printing to blank forms with pre-printed backer information, so that you don't have to worry about aligning the form to try and hit data into boxes. The software will do that for you, and those updates will provide that for you as well. And then obviously we're printing for those electronic delivery customers. We're posting those to Document Self-Service. Covered most of this already, but the software is going to provide you with the ERP integration based off of your ERP. We're going to print the form and the data at the same time, so you're not trying to hit boxes. There's going to be a totals report that you have available, history. There's a full audit trail, and again, our support's available to help you guys get these updates applied and tested. So again, this is the same idea here with the self-service portal. but ordering your tax forms for anybody that's going to print in-house is going to be something we would strongly recommend doing right now if you haven't already done so. If you aren't sure, let's see. Yeah, so I'm going to provide that contact information here next. But if you aren't sure if you are going to receive the communication when the W-2s or 1095Cs are available, reach out to our support, either through tech support at mhcautomation.com or the phone number here, and they can make sure that you're set up. And these are the two authorized forms providers that we have. It's a Brand Advantage Group and Quality Resource Group. I'll pause here for a minute so people can write any of this information down. You don't have to use one of these two, but we recommend it strongly so that because they know our software, they know what forms are needed, and they can ensure that you're going to order the right forms. We provide two so that there's some competition, and hopefully they're so reach out to these two organizations if you're interested in pricing for any of the forms and to get those ordered, of course, sooner than later. As far as the portal goes, so this is just a little bit of what you need to know about the new MHC customer portal. It's so for those of you that are familiar with the old MHC customer support site, it's been around for a long time. Needed a facelift. On the right hand side here, you can see the new portal is it's more intuitive. It has a knowledge base. It's more what you'd expect from a customer portal in 2023. So we recommend that you access it now. Make sure that you can get logged in. Make sure that you have access. You're not going to see the 2023 year-end updates available yet, but then you're ahead of the game and not trying to log in when those year-end updates come out. Again, if you're not aware how to get there, don't have a login, need help accessing it, contact tech support at mhcautomation.com. All right, so let's look at option 3. So this would be going hands-free. So this would be for someone who does not have any type of electronic delivery in place today and just wants to outsource all the printing. That's certainly an option. Then you don't have to deal with the printing, deal with the printers, the sealers, all that fun stuff, the envelopes, depending on the document type. So again, that statement of work, we need to get that finalized here as soon as possible. Again, you share your data files with us. Our team, once you get that statement of work set up, they'll be in contact to help you share those data files securely. Again, we'll do the Q&A check, and then we're going to, once you give us the green light, we'll print and distribute those documents. One thing to think about here is reprints. How do we handle reprints if we don't have any software internally? And I'll talk more about that in a minute, but one of the options here is we can provide a flash drive back to you all with PDF copies named intuitively so you can find the document that you're looking for. And, it could be W-2 or 2023 _ W-2 _ employee ID or employee name. And we can provide that flash drive back to you so that you have the ability to reprint those documents for the employees. So again, this would be where you don't have software internally. So some of the benefits here, obviously you don't have to invest in any type of special printers, sealers, stuffing equipment. It takes the stress off of you and puts it on MHC to handle the printing and the distribution of those documents for you. And saving the electronic delivery option would be a good future investment. And then you can hopefully have fewer to print, which is going to save your organization money. So the preparation here, again, David Bolt is the tax processing coordinator. Please reach out to him if you haven't already, and then get that statement of work taken care of. Again, you'll need to pay attention to your year-end updates. Send MHC the file. We'll talk about some dates to avoid any rush charges, and then you can sit back and relax and let MHC do the rest. All right. So before I move forward here, so there's some information coming up. A lot of times we get asked, when do I need to send MHC my file to avoid any rush charges? And the answer is 7 business days before the IRS deadline. So we'll talk about those specific dates here in just a minute. All right, before we move on to option 4, Sam, any additional questions posted?
Yes, we had a couple come in. If you have the vendor self-serve portal, how do you inform your vendors? Email or print mail?
Yeah, so the vendors, you would need to manage informing the vendors of what they need to do to get to the system, and then there's a registration process that they would go through. There are some security questions that they would be forced to answer, basically to identify who they are, and then they can once they complete the vendor registration process, then they can create a password that they would use going forward. So our system won't handle the communication to the vendor for the initial setup, but then it will inform them when they have new documents available.
Great. And then the next question is, when will we have information on the IRS changes on any form settings?
Yeah, so the IRS website will have any updates, but our software will handle any IRS changes from year to year because our software prints the form and the data at the same time. So we work with the different ERP providers to handle the data that's coming from the ERP. And then our 2023 year-end tax updates will handle any of those IRS changes for boxes and whatnot. So you really don't need to worry about that, depending on the document type that you're referring to. So if it's something unique to your organization, let us know, and we can certainly follow up on that. But the answer at a high level is our software will handle those IRS form changes for you.
Yeah, I'm looking now. I think it's specific to tax forms. So,
Okay, yeah. So we have lots of different tax forms. So if there's a specific form that you're wondering about, if there are any changes, let us know, and we can get back to you on that.
great.
Good to proceed.
Yes.
Okay. So option 4 is going to be printing internally. So no electronic option, no outsourcing option. This is, when I first started with MHC, what most of our customers would do. We would, they use the Document Express software. They apply the updates. They apply their year-end updates for their ERP. They import the data. They're buying the forms, and they're printing everything internally. And depending on your employee count or your vendor count, can be a lot of work, and it can require overtime for your staff. And it's I used to actually, way back in the day, used to do some printing of these documents for our customers, and it's a stressful process. It's there's no other way to put it. It's there's a lot on the line, and it's something that you got you got to worry about, the sealer breaking down, or the different how the forms are printing, your printer pulling paper. But we're certainly here to help you guys with that, and our software hopefully will make it less stressful for you guys that are printing internally. So again, ordering your tax forms, very important. I would get ahead of that right now if you're planning to print internally, based off the quantities and the document types, of course. So this kind of elaborates on my comment earlier. We have obviously the W-2s, the 1099s, the 1095Cs are the most common tax forms. But if you look at the right-hand side, the 1099 NEC is very common now, of course. But we do the retirement, we do the government, we do Puerto Rican W-2s, T4s, as we talked about. Lots of different tax forms. So if you have a unique use case or something that you even don't see here, let us know, and we can let you know if we can help you out with processing those. Let's see. For reissued and corrected tax documents, there's typically a little bit of confusion around these two. So if an employee, for a reissued tax document, if an employee loses his or her W-2 or the address is incorrect, a reissued W-2 must be sent to the employee. For corrected, if a correction needs to be made to the tax document before the electronic file is transferred, that's the key, is when is the electronic file transferred. The forms must be denoted as corrected. If the correction needs to be made after the electronic file is transferred, depending on the module, the forms must be denoted as corrected and a special corrected form is used. So this is a nice slide that goes through real, high level timelines of what you all are going to be interested in. We've talked through most of this already. And let me check the clock here. We got about 9 minutes left here, so we'll buzz through this pretty quickly. But a lot of dates that we've already talked about. This, if you're again planning to use MHC's processing service, we need to get that SOW taken care of. Order your tax forms, and then right around the corner we have our ERP updates that'll be coming out. Typically the first 2 weeks of December, and then right after that, the MHC year-end updates will be coming out. So again, if you haven't accessed the new customer portal, do that now and get prepared for that. Make sure you're going to be getting the communication for when the updates are available. And then this would be the deadline for uploading a file if you're to avoid any rush fees. So I mentioned we need 7 business days. So that would be for the W-2s and the 1099s that need to be distributed by January 31st. And then we have some IRS deadlines that we talked through earlier as well. And then also the CRA deadline for the T4s and the Releve 1 forms. And then again, the 1095Cs, you have a little bit more time on again this year. March 1st, the deadline for getting those to the employees, and then April 1st for the electronic filing. So hopefully that's helpful. Again, we can provide the slide deck to anyone that wants a copy. I'm going to cruise through some frequently asked questions here, and then I'll see if there are any other questions that are in the Q&A, and then we can wrap up here for today. Let's see, we're currently using MHC Document Express for printing our W-2s, 1095Cs, 1099s. If we use MHC's processing service, do we need to buy forms ourselves? No, so that's part of our service. So there's a per form cost for our processing service, and that there's a per document charge for our service. So if you're interested, we want to know what are the document types, what are your expected volumes, and then we can provide pricing. But that does include the tax form. You don't have to worry about purchasing those. We'll handle that for you. Let's see, if we use MHC document processing service, when do we need to provide data files? So we covered this a little bit earlier, but it depends on the IRS deadline. If you work back 7 business days, then you can avoid a rush fee. So every year we have people that just can't make that deadline. We're still going to do everything we can to help you guys out, but to avoid any type of rush fee and to keep everyone's stress level as low as possible, we strongly recommend getting us that file, 7 business days prior to the IRS deadline. Let's see. So for terminated employees, we covered this a little bit earlier. We do have an option which is called MHC KBA, which is for inactive employees to access the document self-service portal. Similar to what I described with the vendor self-service portal, there's a registration process they have to go through. So we work with each customer individually to determine what are those security questions that they need to answer to actually register and create a profile. And typically the social security number or the last 4 of their social is going to be one of those security questions. But essentially they go through a registration process. They can set up a password, and then they use that password going forward, even though they're no longer an active employee, and they can still access their documents so that your payroll or AP department doesn't have to print and mail those out for those inactive employees. Let's see, if an employee asks for reprint, how do I handle those requests? So there's a few different options here. We talked about the flash drive. So if you're completely hands-free, where you're not, you don't have our software and you're just using MHC to print and mail for you, then we can provide that PDF, that flash drive with the PDF copies for you to use for reprints. If you're using document self-service, of course, you're going to send the employees to handle their own reprints through the website. If you're using Document Express to print, well, if you have Document Express, then you can reprint those on premise using that software. And then I covered this a little bit earlier, but the inactive employees, again, it's called MHC KBA, so that even though they no longer have access to your network, they can still access their documents using it's an alternate authentication is what we call it. So this is, these are some, helpful links, of course, the IRS website, the Canadian CRA website, uh, you know, certainly some helpful information. I'm sure everyone's familiar with these at this point. And that wraps up everything we had planned. Sam, any other questions in the Q&A or in the chat?
Yeah, we had another couple come in. One question is, what is the turnaround time for receiving test documents as well as when we send our final W-2 file?
That's a great question. I actually don't know the answer to that one. We'll have to get back to you on that. Sam, are you able to see who's asking the question so we can follow up?
Yep. Yeah, I can share this information.
Okay. Yeah, I'll follow up with that on that one. I don't know exactly what that turnaround time is and don't want to guess.
Awesome. Somebody had just asked about receiving a copy of the slide deck as well. We can send that out in follow-ups as needed too.
Yeah, again, there's a post-webinar survey. Let us know if we missed anything, if you're interested in, future webinar topics, or if you want to copy the slide deck. Let us know how we're doing, what we can do differently, what we can be doing better.
Awesome. And we have another final question here is when is the 1099 software update available?
Yep, that'll be with our mid-December updates, which is, it's typically the 15th or 16th of December, but again, we just have to wait for those ERP updates to be finalized. So it's typically right in the middle of December.
Great. I believe those were all the questions.
Perfect. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll be here to help you guys as you get through the tax season. Let us know what we can do to help. And thanks for the time and best of luck getting through another year end. Thanks, everybody.